Over the course of 2 nights, a strange, large creature, seemingly covered in scales or leaves, terrifies motorists in Riverside, California. This creature would become known as the Riverside Monster. It began on the night of November 8, 1958. 24-year-old Charles Wetzel from Bloomington was driving home at around 9 p.m. when his radio suddenly began to act up, transmitting static instead of the tunes he was listening to. He bent down to fiddle with the dial, but was met with only static on every station. Apparently something was interfering with his reception. When he looked up, that is when he saw something standing in the road that was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. When he first saw the creature, he claimed that it seemed to be waving, quote, sort of funny, with incredibly long arms, and seemed to be walking from the hips, almost as if it had no knees. He immediately braked and swerved, but he couldn't avoid it. The front of his car bumped into the creature, at which point it uttered a, quote, high-pitched gurgling sound, and began frantically clawing at the windshield. Wetzel absolutely could not believe what he was looking at. He offered this description to a reporter at UPI. It had a round, scarecrowish head, like something out of Halloween. It wasn't human. It had a longer arm than anything I'd ever seen. When it saw me in the car, it reached all around. The eyes were shining like something fluorescent, and it had a protuberant mouth. It was scaly, like leaves. Wetzel also noted that the creature stood about 6 feet tall, had no ears or nose, and the body had a whitish luminescent all over it. It had incredibly long arms with claws at the tips. Its legs splayed outwards instead of being vertical, and its body extended down below the thighs in bug-like fashion. The legs stuck out from the side of the torso, not from the bottom, he noted. As it flailed at him, reaching across the hood of the car, the creature made a gurgling sound mixed with high-pitched screams. Wetzel was rightly frightened and reached for a .22 caliber high-standard pistol he kept in his car. He carried it because he was often on the road at night and felt it would deter anyone from trying to start trouble. He showed the gun to the creature, which carried on its attack unabated. Wetzel considered shooting it, but was afraid that if he did, he would most likely only succeed in breaking the windshield, or the only barrier between himself and the creature. I held the pistol and stomped the gas. The thing fell back from the car, and it gurgled. The noise it made didn't sound human. The creature tumbled forward off the hood and was run over by the car. Wetzel could hear it scrape the pan under the engine as he drove over it. He sped off in the direction of the police station, where he immediately told authorities of what he had encountered. He had the disbelieving sheriff's officers come outside, where he showed them some thin, sweeping marks on his windshield, marks he said were made by the creature. The officers went to the scene of the incident, the point where North Main Street dips and crosses the usually dry Santa Ana riverbed. Police arrived at the scene and discovered strange tracks in the area of road where Wetzel's sighting occurred. Bloodhounds were immediately brought in to search the surrounding woods, but they found nothing. No doubt, had it been a prankster in a costume, the dogs would have been able to track them, so clearly it wasn't. Police also examined Wetzel's car and found that something had indeed scrubbed the grease from the Buick's underside. What that something was anyone's guess. Curiously, the very next night, on November 9th, another motorist driving down that same road claimed that a 6-foot-tall, scaly black something with shining eyes and long arms jumped out of the underbrush at their car. The motorist managed to swerve around the creature and sped off unscathed. Like Wetzel, this motorist was so frightened by what they saw, they also reported it to the police. Sheriff Sergeant Holmes, who investigated the case, assumed that what Wetzel encountered was perhaps a large vulture that flopped onto the hood of his car after being hit. Sometimes cars hit them when they're in the road eating rabbits, he said. Holmes also admitted that he had gone out to the site the next day with the intent of proving that it was a bird and not a monster that Wetzel encountered. Sadly, after looking around, he could find nothing to back up his theory. "I didn't even find a feather," he noted. So what was the Riverside monster? A vulture? A prankster? Or possibly a creature from outer space? It's interesting that Wetzel described how right before he encountered the creature, the radio in his car suddenly filled with static. UFO literature is filled with cases in which witnesses describe how, right before they observed a UFO, their car radio suddenly went on the fritz, as if the object was directly interfering with the reception. Is it just a curious coincidence that Wetzel's radio went on the fritz seconds before he encountered a very strange alien-like creature? A creature that left marks on a windshield and could not be tracked by bloodhounds? Based on the description of the creature, the scales, clawed hands, and glowing eyes, Albert Rosales, author of the Humanoid journals, believes that Wetzel and the other motorist may have encountered a reptilian type of entity. It's interesting how similar this case is to the most famous reptilian sighting, the 1988 Lee County, South Carolina lizard man incident. On the night of June 29, 1988, Christopher Davis had pulled over to change a tire when he claims a 7-foot-tall, green-colored, scaly creature with glowing red eyes began running towards him on 2 legs from an adjacent field about 30 yards away. Davis jumped into his car and sped away, but the creature managed to reach the car. It grabbed at the door handle and then jumped on the roof of the car, where it flailed wildly until it fell off. It sounds like Wetzel and Davis encountered the same creature, a scaly, glowing-eyed, violent beast. So is that it? Was the Riverside monster something from outer space? Was it dropped off here by the visitors to be observed, and then retrieved at a later date? Was it an experiment gone wrong that had escaped from a lab somewhere? Or, as Sergeant Holmes believed, was it a misidentified vulture? From what I can tell, there were no other sightings of a large, scaly, bipedal creature in Riverside following these 2 incidents. So the answer to the question of what the Riverside monster was will probably never be sufficiently resolved.